at least statistically, and I probably do have less time on this earth now than I've already lived. And coming along with that is thinking about things that may prolong my life, may make me feel stronger. And there's a huge cottage industry out there, always has been, of various remedies. A lot of it's snake oil, that can help you live longer and help you feel better. But I want to just share a quick little thought about that for people, for my listeners here at Tufts to keep in mind, even as you're a young person, but as you get older. And that is that there are two things you can do that will not only prolong your life, I believe, but will make you feel stronger, make you healthier, spiritually happier, I guess, physically more endurance, give you a better immune system against various ailments. Two things you can do, and both of them are free, I may add, which is maybe why people don't want to talk about it too much. And those things seem simple, but here it is. Breathing and water. Breath and water. I find that if I remember and I take a moment each day or several times in the day simply to breathe a little bit, wherever I am, through my nose, into my head, through my nostrils, and I even like to block one and breathe in and then blow it out the other and do the opposite. You end up cooling down the entire body. You oxygenate your blood. You revitalize your whole system. And there's nothing to it. I'm not suggesting any techniques or anything else. I'm simply pointing out that this has the effect of strengthening you. And I think that, if you're fortunate enough to live a long life on this great earth of ours, and you reach the end of your life, which we all do, then you will know that you had lived a long life because you had remembered to breathe. And if you don't live a long life, you'll regret the fact that you forgot to breathe. And this may seem simple, and of course we all have to breathe automatically, but I'm talking about a conscious effort to do a little extra breathing, a little deeper breathing, a moment to sort of take off, and maybe as part of that breathing exercise you get to take stock a bit spiritually, mentally, emotionally of where you are. And it's just something that we forget and that I think we should do. And then the other thing, of course, is water. I recommend a good glass of good quality spring water when you first wake up in the morning, because to sort of get all of your cells moving, get everything in your system happening, get everything properly hydrated. And then, of course, throughout the course of the day, make sure that you have a little bit more water. When you drink things like coffee and soda, which I definitely don't recommend. I don't think it's good for you. I generally avoid soda once in a while, but that's not really the same as pure water, which is something that's available. It's either free or it's not expensive. And, these are little things that you can do in the course of a day to improve your health. And I just thought I'd share that before I get underway here with harder subjects. The first, of course, being that I'm still not finished talking about the article that's appeared about this program in the Tufts Observer, the article Morse Code. It's still there, still available. And there were things said in that article that were unkind toward me, personally hurtful toward me, frankly. And I'm not discussing it because of that. I am discussing it because I think that the nature of the rocks that were thrown at me in this article have social and political import. The reason that they were thrown at me, it's quite clear. And of course, if you want to disagree, you're welcome to call, is simply because I am a conservative. And that when you are a conservative in this day and age, especially if you're outspoken, and obviously I am because I'm here speaking in the very heart of one of America's most liberal institutions, Tufts University, then you're going to end up having those rocks thrown at you. And I accept that, even though I don't like it, and even though it's hurtful to me, and it's damaging, and it's not something I seek. I understand that it just simply is going to come with the territory. And I want to discuss what I think is a grave misconception, and hopefully with the goal of taking a little bit of a deeper look at not the motivation behind this attack on me, but the assumptions that are taken on by particularly young students who would make this kind of attack and do so without vindictiveness, without meanness, not even necessarily wanting to hurt me, although they might, I don't think so. But just because it reflects what they're taught, their worldview, which I would argue and I would suggest is ignorant. Now, I don't mean ignorant in that people are stupid. I mean ignorant in that they are uninformed and that they have been brought up in an atmosphere that, by classic definition, you could describe as prejudiced or bigoted against people who do not genuflect to the left. There's a misconception about it. And I think that it's something that is reflected today on American college campuses. I believe that the liberals and the left has pretty much co-opted most college campuses in this country. Over the past several decades, you've seen a gradual weeding out and retirement of conservative thought, conservative thinkers, conservative professors, and I think the left has taken over the levers of influence on these campuses, and as such, it has promoted its point of view. This, it's not a matter of debating that point of view, which is fine, because after all, aren't colleges supposed to be places of vigorous debate and inquiry, and places where young people learn how to think on their own and get critical opinion from all sides? But and I would say this if conservatives took over. The point is that it's become conformist, it's become uniformal, it's become, quite frankly, intellectually sloppy, which is what's motivated and what's behind these attacks against me. They are not well thought out. They are just simply based on, kind of quick and easy thinking. They're not considering the ramifications of what these attacks might mean to me. They're not really looking at me as an individual. It's more, they're turning me into some kind of a stick figure. And as such, once I've been dehumanized, if you will, it's very easy to throw these kind of attacks and not think that you're doing it to somebody that's a human being. That's someone that you might even admire. Now, I've been recently told by a friend of mine who is a psychologist, actually, that the reason, and a man of the left, is that this article and these sorts of attacks are something that I secretly want because I want to be, quote, provocative. In other words, this person is, and I think this is a very current view by the left with regard to conservatives, especially a conservative like myself, who, operates in a liberal world and who's basically liberal in many respects, but yet not. The only way to explain that someone has not conformed to the left is to say that there's something wrong with them. There's something emotionally wrong, mentally wrong. They want to look at my past and say, what made me like this, right? And what they're saying basically is that I don't really sincerely hold the opinions I hold. This is all done because I want to experience a fight and I want to have provoke people and aggravate people. That's why I'm doing this. And that because there's something wrong with me. There's something, that might have happened to me in the past that made me like this. And, of course, they would not say this about me if I was a liberal. Nobody would accuse me of being provocative, right? Putting aside the fact that liberalism is orthodox, and as such I wouldn't be provocative. Let's put that aside. The fact is that nobody would think of me in those terms. Nobody would want to psychologize me, look at my past, if I was liberal, because if I was liberal, I'd be on the right side. It would be wonderful, you know. Let me look at how liberals are treated. I mean, if I were liberal, I'd probably have a book deal by now. I probably would have gotten honorary degrees by now, instead of this kind of demonization and these sort of ugly attacks in a college paper. Instead, they would have written a praising article about me. I would have been held up as a hero. That's how liberals are treated, right? They would have drawn I'm being a little rhetorical here, but I would have made a magazine cover with my face in a close-up, all cropped, you know, all you see. This is how liberals get treated. It's like an idol worship, in a way, because I think most liberals, or liberalism in general, does not believe in a supreme being. They don't believe in God. As such, they need to replace that with the worship of people as great heroes of progress who are moving society forward into this great sunlit world, right? That's why you see, for example, Hillary Clinton, after when she was running for U.S. Senate in New York State, the New York Times Sunday magazine does, and this is typical. I'm not singling her out. I'm saying this is how liberals get treated, who are prominent. You know, this gigantic statue of her, looking like the Statue of Liberty, right, on the cover of the magazine, with one foot on Manhattan and the other foot in New York State, looking up bravely with like a sunbeam floating from her forehead. And the article is like, "Will Hillary save liberalism?" You know, that kind of thing. You know, I mean, more locally, remember Michael Dukakis, Governor Michael Dukakis? The Boston Globe, you know, while he was governor, for years, issue after issue, week after week, we'd have to hear about how brilliant Michael Dukakis is. The brilliant Michael Dukakis did this. The brilliant Michael Dukakis went to the toilet. The brilliant Michael Dukakis, whatever. And, of course, the problem with Michael Dukakis was that, for the Globe, and later on they regretted it, was that he began to believe his own press. He started really thinking he was brilliant. And it went to his head, you know, to the point where he believed he could be president of the United States, and it led to a disaster, because he really wasn't quite up to that. But there's such a build-up, I mean, this heroic figure, right? Why? Because he was, a tool of the left. He was doing the bidding of the liberal establishment. And as long as he did that, he would be hailed as this great, brilliant guy. Every utterance would be brave, and we hear the courageous. You know, he wants to raise taxes. He gets an award from the Kennedy School. You know, I mean, this kind of hero worship and this promotion of the liberal, no one accuses him of being provocative. No one throws bricks at him, right? It's all this great and glorious march forward. That's what would have happened, if I were liberal. Or maybe they would have written what I would have preferred, and what I seek, and what I hope to do in my modest and humble endeavor here at Tufts University, and my relatively quiet forays into public discourse and advocacy, is to have a reasoned conversation about important and, if not critical, issues that face our society, that face our country, that face our lives, where we can differ and we can disagree, but we can debate our issues openly on the merits, and let our listeners, let our friends, let our followers, let our people we come into contact with, let them make up their own minds. Let them weigh and measure all sides, and let them develop their own independent thought. Let them take into consideration all sides of an issue. In high school, they do this thing called rhetoric, where they have debate clubs. I've been involved a little bit in this, and that's what that does, and it's quite good. I mean, it's a way to have, opposite opinions debated, not to arrive at any particular consensus. That's not the goal, but simply to make sure that both sides or multiple sides are presented in a reasonable atmosphere by which debate can take place. Positions, there is conflict, but yet positions are presented in a way that ultimately a person can make the contrast. But that's not what's happened here with me, and I didn't expect it to happen. It's sad to me that it isn't happening, because that's what I want to have. But what's happened is something that's predictable. It is drearily predictable. And that is that instead of these two aforementions, I have to be destroyed. I have to be denounced. I have to be investigated. Because the left does not want to have a reasonable debate with me, or any conservative, and I'm not touting my own horn here. I'm saying just the issue itself. Because they may be afraid they might lose such a debate. And they can't lose because they're all about winning. They're all about power. They're all about control. They don't, again, philosophically, I'm not talking about individuals here, but philosophically, leftism doesn't have any place for God or supernatural or spiritual. They want to have physical, material transformation in society, and as such, they cannot tolerate anything that might bring up powers that might exist outside of their own fecund imaginations. So they have to destroy that. That's why they threw these rocks at me in this article in the Tufts Observer. It's an article, you can read it. It's called Morse Code. Anyway, I have written a couple of responses to the article, and the one that I wrote last night is the one that I'm going to refer to right now. I have submitted this to Newsmax for publication. They usually publish articles by me on a weekly basis. For some reasons maybe that's not so hard to understand, they've been reluctant to talk about this issue and publish my articles. We'll see later today whether they publish this particular article, but I'm going to read it. But before I do, let me again give out the number if you want to join the conversation. I am live here at Tufts University, WMFO Medford. The number is 855-915-9636. 855-915-9636. Maybe before we do this, I'm going to take a brief break and do a public service announcement. In the meantime, you're welcome aboard.